So the idea of the HyperPad Pico, again, it's built in two modules. Why? Because the second module, what I call the HyperPad Pico module, which you connect at the outside of the pad, can also be used as standalone. To be used as standalone, you need to flash a new firmware. So you boot your Raspberry Pico by pressing the button, and then it will show as a master edge device on the desktop. We can drag and drop the new firmware to it. It will flash it, and then it will boot in standalone mode. So you can, if you want to interact with it, you just need to have like a USB keyboard. I use this kind of power splitter, which allows you to have USB at the same time as power. And then when you will boot, you will be able to control the Pico pad exactly how I show on the demo, and exactly the same features are possible. So you can use the file browser, you can go to these demos, you can put a background. And in fact, the idea is that you can use it standalone to ease the development of programs for it. Because all these nice graphical extension is quite difficult to use or to program from a real Commodore pad. So the idea is that you can develop and compile your 6502 programs, for example, on a Mac, using this Acme compiler, for example. And if you have a Raspberry Pico W, you can also directly drag and drop your executables without having the need of interacting with the keyboard. So that's also a nice feature. If you want to develop, you better use it standalone, and when your program is finished, you can test all this on a real pad. So in standalone mode, what is happening is that in addition to the graphics and sound feature which are implemented in this, also the 6502 emulation is running, and of course the kernel and BASIC, etc. are also emulated in the system. So you can actually have a standalone machine. The pad emulation is not perfect, but it's enough to do programs. So the things like the VIA and all this, the VIA interrupt is implemented, but timers are not yet implemented. So I will have to add some features. But for the rest, you can use it exactly like any before. So if you want to switch to 40 columns mode, you can just do it. If you want to execute demo, let's go for example this demo, which is a known demo, you can actually run it exactly as you would run it on the pad, and in addition you have a nice background in addition. So I did not explain it in details in the previous video, but when you are on the real pad and you use this module in the file browser, there were some options at the right. You can browse directory structures, but you can select the file you want to load or the directory you want to open. But then you can see that if you press space, you can go to lower resolution mode. You can have a reset with delete, but if you go to low resolution mode, what it does is actually switching the resolution to 40 columns, but on a real pad it will also install a program which is called AnyEarth, which is typically made to execute on 80 column pad 40 columns programs to have, let's say, backward compatibility with the 40 columns mode. So if you select this on a real pad, you will see that the 40 columns display will then switch to 40 columns at the middle of the screen. The 80 columns will switch to 40 columns at the middle of the screen, and you can then run all kinds of things, like for example the Spetsky game, they typically need this 40 columns mode. If I take for example 7 here, kind of Galaxian, you will actually need this 40 columns mode. Voila, so you can develop your programs in standalone mode. I will make another video maybe looking more from the development side, how you can actually use it through FTP, but that's a bit the idea.